I've watched sellers in Ventura County lose $50,000 in equity without ever cutting a check. They just chase the market down for 6 months instead of getting ahead of it. And here's what they should be bothered by most of all. Most of them own perfectly good homes. The value didn't disappear because of a bad roof or a bad kitchen. It disappeared because of something they didn't even know was working against them. There are 5 things that are sitting right here in the market right now, and the 5th one can hand you a bill for tens of thousands of dollars without a warning at all. So let's talk about why this is happening right now in Ventura County. The average home is selling for around $888,000. And in some pockets, it's down a couple percent from last year. We're seeing about 500 closed sales a month with a median days on market of about 26 days. But that number is just the average. Half of those homes are selling faster, and half of those homes are sitting around way too long. And the difference is why these 5 things that are killing those deals. Now, this isn't about predicting a crash or scaring anybody. This is about knowing what you're walking into, whether you're buying, selling, or just keeping an eye on what your equity actually is on your own property. Because the difference between a home that holds its value and one that becomes a money pit is usually one of these conditions that nobody talks about at an open house. All right, let's talk about number 1 on my list, and that's the home that was bought at the absolute peak in 2022. We all remember the market looked like an awesome thing back then. Interest rates were still low. Buyers were throwing money at almost anything that had a front door, and some people paid top dollar, and that home is worth nothing like what it was before. And now they need to sell, but they're underwater or they're barely above water. But as soon as they kick in the factor of commissions and closing costs, they've got nothing left. So they based it on what they paid, not what the market is telling them today. And that home sits on the market and gets stale. Buyers start to wonder what's wrong with it. Then the price cuts start. And now that seller is chasing a market down instead of getting ahead of it. I've seen people lose $50,000 in equity just because they won't accept that the 2022 prices are not coming back anytime soon. If you're in this situation, you need to price for reality, not for what you owe on a loan or what you need when you sell. That leads me right into number 2, and this one is about greed. I'm talking about the overpriced flip. An investor buys a fixer in a decent neighborhood, puts some new floors and freshens up the kitchen, and then prices it as if it's sitting in a completely different zip code. This happens all the time in Ventura County because our micro neighborhoods can change drastically from 2 blocks away. You've got a different school district, a different pool of buyers, and a completely different comp set, and it makes those buyers walk away. Buyers walk into these flips and the finishes look great, so they fall in love with the quartz counters and the new appliances, but they check the comps and they drive the neighborhood and realize this house is priced like it belongs in a completely different neighborhood, and they walk away. The investor is now sitting on a house that looks like a sure thing, but the math never worked because the location didn't support the ask. In real estate, you can change the kitchen, but you can't change the neighborhood. And that brings us to the condition that can actually cost you the most money out of everything on this list. Now, this is a sneaky one, and it can cost you more money than almost anything else on this list. I'm talking about the unpermitted work in your home right now. Room additions, garage conversions, electrical wiring, plumbing changes, all done without pulling a permit from the city. In California, you are required to disclose unpermitted work when you sell, and that alone enough is to make a lot of buyers just walk. Buyers start thinking about if the seller cut corners on permits, they probably cut corners in the actual work. Maybe it was done by a licensed electrician, but maybe it was done by somebody who watched a YouTube video and bought a voltage tester instead. You just don't know. And that brings us up to the insurance problem. If something goes wrong, your homeowner's insurance might not cover the damage that happened with unpermitted space. The city can fine you, and they can make you tear it out or they can force you to go through the retroactive permitting process, which can run into tens of thousands of dollars. I've had deals die in escrow over this exact issue. It's a deal killer, plain and simple. And the next one on this list is something I see all the time from sellers who think their street is better than it actually is. Let's talk about number 4. And this one is the wrong micro location. I see this consistently in Ventura County, especially when seller looks at the comps 2 blocks away and says, well, that house sold for $900,000, so should mine. But that comp might be in a better school district, might back up to an open space instead of a busy street. And in Ventura County, 2 blocks can make a huge difference between a hot listing and a stale one. Buyers figure out this fast. They drive over and hear the traffic noise. They see the power lines, check the flood zone maps, and realize the backyard fence faces a commercial parking lot. And none of that shows up on the listing photos. So now you've got a home that might be beautiful inside, but it's priced for a location that it doesn't actually have. The price drops start, the listing gets stale, and the seller is left wondering why nobody wants their house. It's because the location is the one thing you can never fix, no matter how much money you throw at it. Now, number 5 on my list comes with a surprise bill that makes all these other problems look tiny. Last but not least is number 5. This one can hit you with a bill out of nowhere. And I'm talking about HOAs with bad reserves. You're looking at a condo or a townhome in one of the beach communities around Ventura, Oxnard, or Point Hueneme, and the monthly dues look reasonable. But you dig into the HOA docs and you find out their reserve fund is basically empty. This means when the roof needs to be replaced, or the pool needs to be resurfaced, or the elevator doesn't work, the association doesn't have the money saved up to fix it. So they hit every single owner with a special assessment. And we're not talking about a couple $100. These can run into the thousands or even tens of thousands per unit. And you have no choice but to pay it. Smart buyers in Ventura County know to ask for the reserve study before they write an offer. And when they see these numbers, they walk away if they aren't in order. If you already live there, you're stuck holding the bag. So make sure you find out what is going on before you start selling. So if you're buying, pull the PINMERIT history and run your own comps before you fall in love with the countertops. If you're selling, price for reality, not for what your wish list is or what you need to get. And drop a comment below. Did I miss something? I don't know. Maybe I did. All right. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a great day.